Welcome to the Alpha Girl Confidence Podcast, where we are empowering youth female athletes to play and live confidently. My name is Shay Haddo, and each week I will bring you new episodes to teach you the strategies and tools that you need in order to live a confident, empowered life both on and off the playing field. Hey, what's up, and welcome back to the show. I am super excited for you to listen to today's episode where I had the chance to sit down and talk to Ruhi Maletira, who is a soccer player, a 16-year-old from the Bay Area, and she is also the creator of Inside Athletes, which is a website focused on helping aspiring youth athletes to overcome issues with their mentality. So like I said, Ruhi is a soccer player who has played in the ECNL and Academy levels. She has also gone through mindset highs and lows, confidence highs and lows, and her passion project stems from her own experiences. So this is a really awesome conversation because we go into her story, how she has navigated the highs and lows of confidence. We go into athlete motivation, how injury can impact your mental health, and also how to stay confident and stay in line with your journey when you're facing injury. We also get into how to build consistent confidence every single day. So I'm so excited for you to listen to this episode. If you enjoy it, please share it. Please tag us on social media and leave us a review if you really find value in it. All right, hope you enjoy the episode. What's up, Ruhi? Welcome to the podcast. I am so excited to have you on today. So thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, girl. So like I said, I'm so excited just because what you're doing, I think is so amazing and awesome, and something that not too many people, let alone 16-year-olds, are doing. So big props to you, and we'll really get into that. But I want my listeners to kind of know who you are, and we'll get into like Inside Athlete and stuff. But let's just start with who you are.
Yeah, so I play soccer, if like anyone didn't know, and I started playing since I was like super little at the age of 6, and I've been passionate about it from a very young age. Like a lot of people can't really say that, but I'm glad that I like kind of picked up the sport since I was very little. I was always on the top team, which is like a really good thing to be on, and I didn't really do recreational or anything like that, but you know, a lot of people would say that's a great positive thing, but although I was consistently on the top, competitive, playing top leagues, I still struggled with my confidence. And this was sort of at the age of like 13 years old when I like really had a hard time. I was so scared during games to even like take risks or make mistakes. Like I would be like terrified, shaking. I was so embarrassed if I did make a mistake, and you know, like that confidence feeling, like not having confidence in like my ability and my skills, like it brought down my love for the sport. It brought down my passion. It kind of like brought down my enjoyment overall. And so, yeah, I just like I love soccer. And then like as I grew older, I started recognizing who I am and started gaining confidence and recognizing that mentality is as important as physicality in any sport or anything in life. And
Yeah.
so that's why I sort of like wanted to kind of like teach other kids or
Cool.
kind of connect with them that they're not really alone in this, because
Yes.
so many people are going through, you know, mentality roadblocks like me.
I love this so much. And that's why I wanted to have you on, because I can sit up here and say, as you know, that I'm almost 30, right? By the time this airs, I'm just about to be 30. So I can sit up here as a 30-year-old and say all this stuff, but it's so much more powerful coming from a 16-year-old who is going through it right now and working through it right now. So this is going to be awesome. And it's really interesting because we both started at like that age, like 13. Like that's when I started having the confidence issues too. So curious for you, what was it, if you know, you may not even know, but what was it for you that kind of started that shift of like, oh my gosh, I'm so worried about making mistakes, and kind of started the decline, if you will?
Yeah, actually, that's a great question, because originally I did started this blog, but over time I started figuring out, you know, I started like a lot of reflection of when did I actually lose my confidence.
Yeah.
And it was particularly when I got into ECNL, which is like the top league for soccer. And so when that started happening, I recognized how competitive I had to be and how important like it was all about me playing well during the game for other people watching, other coaches watching, trying to impress them, than really me playing for what I loved. And so that fear that started building up like every single game kind of made me question my technical ability, my skills, and my skill set. And that's
Mhm.
kind of like when I started losing my confidence and when I started being scared to play like the sport that I loved every single day. So yeah, that's what I think was like kind of when it started to decline.
Yeah. And it's really cool that you have so much self awareness around that and you've been able to reflect on it. And for you, like, how did you start like learning? Like, did you just kind of do it? Was it like you just going and trying to learn on your own? Or did you ask for help? Or like, what was that process for you?
Yeah, so it was really difficult because I kind of had nobody really to talk to.
Yeah.
And I think
Right.
a lot of youth athletes really don't know what to do when they go through this. I mean, a lot
Yep.
of coaches just tell you kind of like, oh, you have to have a strong mindset, but they don't say like how
Yeah.
or like how to do it.
Right.
And so although I talked to my parents, like, Mom, I'm like super scared sometimes and I don't think I have confidence, it was difficult because they also didn't know how to kind of like teach me or help me. And kind of
Right.
like the same thing with a lot of coaches. And so I did a little bit of my personal research. I started like believe like it a lot of the it's always increments that I think are important, like small little things every
Yep.
single day that you do that's gonna help you. And so I kind of like one thing that I started to do that I still do to this day that pumps me up before games is kind of listening to music, like,
Mhm.
like pregame music. And a lot of people think it may be silly, but as I'm listening to music, I always kind of visualize what I do during that game of like me in the moment and me doing like me performing a certain skill, me scoring a goal, and me assisting. And I think when I started doing that, I started getting super excited, starting being like, okay, you know what, I'm gonna do this game. And
Yeah.
like those little things, like they just build up your confidence for the game, your love for the game, your excitement for the game. And so I started doing that consistently and I started getting more excited and more joyful to go out and play than scared to make that mistake. So
I
yeah.
love, there's so many awesome things you said. First off, you just said it is like for you, it was like you just had so much more joy. And
Yeah.
like you replaced the fear with the joy, which honestly, that's the most important thing, right? Like that's how
Yeah.
you used to have fun. And
Mhm.
then you said, which actually for those of you guys watching on my poster behind me says, real change, enduring change happens one step at a time, right?
Mhm.
So you're talking about like the incremental changes is huge because I think so many times with confidence or goal setting or whatever, people look at like the big thing and they're like, oh my gosh, how am I going to get there? Or like, I'm
Yeah.
not confident. How am I going to become boom confident overnight? And it
Mhm.
doesn't work that way.
Exactly.
It's just like, okay, I'm going to listen to music. Let's try that. Oh, it worked. Cool. Now I'm going to visualize. Okay, that felt great. Now I'm going to keep doing it. And then the
Mhm.
last thing, great thing that you said was like the consistency. Like you
Yeah.
just have to stay consistent.
Yeah.
Otherwise, like if you do it once or twice, it's not really going to do anything. Right. But if you
Exactly.
really want to build the mindset and the confidence, you have to work on it consistently. So I
Yeah.
love this. This is so awesome. And we're only like 5 minutes in, and this is already awesome. So I want to dive into some of the things that you've written on your blog at Inside Athlete, and we'll get into more kind of why you created Inside Athlete and talk about that kind of towards the end. But one of the really
Mhm.
cool blogs that you wrote was about athlete motivation, which was like the
Yeah.
fear of failure versus the desire to win, right? So
Yeah.
talk a little bit about like what is the difference between the motivations of fear of failure? That's my motivation is I just don't want to
Yeah.
fail versus like I actually want to win.
Exactly. Yeah. That blog kind of came up to me like sort of randomly. I was just thinking to myself, when I go to a game or when I used to, what am I thinking about? Like sometimes I don't
Yeah.
think about winning. I just don't care
Yeah.
about winning. I'm just too scared of failing. Like that's
Right.
what I had a lot of the time. And I could see like a lot of my teammates, they just wanted to win. And I think these are kind of like, as you said, like motivations. These were like my two these are two distinct motivations that I think athletes normally have when they go out and play. But I think what's really important is to have the balance between both of them. And we're too scared to try things and take risks and make mistakes. Like you're just going to be too afraid to like do things because you're so scared of failing. And if you have the desire to win, you're not going to want to learn because,
Right. I
you're,
love that.
you're always there. You're always there for doing anything to kind of get the reward. And
Mhm.
so I think both of these motivations lead to growth, and that's kind of like a commonality between them. And that's why I sort of thought that what is like, I don't want to just give people these two ideas, these two motivations. I need to help them figure out what should they do. Should they have one of them, or
Yeah.
should they have, both? And it's the balance that's the most important. Like, it's
Mhm.
totally fine to be scared to go out in the game. Like, that's normal. It's okay
Yes,
to be afraid of failing. Like, that's everyone's going to feel that in anything they do,
totally.
but don't have it overpower you. And that's, I could say the same for desiring to win. Don't be overconfident. Don't be, okay, I'm going to do anything in my power to win no matter what it takes, because that's going to limit your growth, limit you learning. So I think
That's
that
awesome.
if we can find that balance between these two motivational aspects in like our mind, then we can achieve like as much growth as we can. And so yeah, that's like it's a topic that I'm like super passionate about. And I think the reason why it's so important is because it's not just in sports, it's also in like anything you do in life. And
Yes.
so yeah, that's why I just like really think that having that balance between these two things are
Yeah.
like so important.
That's really
Yeah.
cool. I've like, of all the conversations I've had with experts and everybody, like, I don't think I've ever had this specific conversation around having the balance between fear of failure and desire to win. Cause you're right. Like, if your only desire or your only motivation is fear of failure, then it's like you're not going to push yourself because you're just going to hold back. Right. But if your only
Exactly.
motivation is desire to win, then like you're going to sacrifice a lot of things only in order to win. And the reality is
Yeah.
at the end of the day, winning is like, it's cool, but does it
Yeah.
really matter? You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
I love to
Exactly.
win, but like learning, development, having fun
Mhm.
it doesn't matter, like recreation, ECNL, college,
Mhm.
like learning, development, fun is more important than winning.
Exactly.
You
Yeah.
know, and so that's just so important because when I look back on my college experience, I don't remember the games I won and lost. I just remember the games that I had fun and like that I played well, and that's all that
Yeah.
matters. I
Exactly.
really really like that. That's awesome. And so for you, what, like, how do you kind of think about, do you think about these things before you play, as far as like desire to win and fear of failure? Like, how do you kind of incorporate this into your play?
Yeah, so, the desire to win and the fear of failure is sort of a concept that I think that, of course, like, you can't really always think about it before a game because you're too
Right.
busy, like, worrying about this or that, but it's sort of something you should definitely think about, like, on your spare time, like, kinda when you're doing that reflection, and I think reflection is key to anything, and the reason is because I like I said before, I would always go out there with the desire I mean, with the fear of failing. I
Yeah.
was so afraid to make a mistake, and then I just realized, like, having fun, so I wanna win, but, of course, I can't overpower me, and so
Right.
I think recognizing my goals for the game, like I said, increments, like, keeping goals per game and doing that is gonna help you achieve that balance between 2, and it's
Mhm.
difficult to kind of say what to exactly do because,
Right.
personally, myself, I'm also trying to find out, but
Yeah.
I think the first thing to kind of accomplish that is to recognize it, because a lot of kids don't recognize which motivation they have when they go at the
Yes.
game. And so I'm still learning, of course, but yeah, I think it's most important that we recognize what that we have these two
I love
approaches.
that. It's like it really, like everything in life, in my opinion, like it starts with self-awareness, right?
Mhm.
Like if
Exactly.
you can first be aware of like, okay, which one am I like leaning only into this one or only into this one, or where am I? Then it's
Mhm.
like you can take the steps to like create balance. And then one of the things that I thought, as far as like a strategy, I guess, to kind of like, it's more on the desire to win a little bit, but I think more often than not, people are more towards the fear of failure side, I think,
Yeah.
especially
Mhm.
girls, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So one thing to kind of balance that out that I like to talk about is, most of the time before games, we're like, oh, I don't want to mess up. I don't want to lose. I don't want to blah, 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 blah. Right. So instead of thinking that, which is your fear of failure, it's
Mhm.
like write down what you do want to happen. So write down all the things you want to
Mhm.
happen, whether it's playing well, winning, scoring a goal, like whatever it is. And so I think that could be one way to like balance out those two right there. So that's
Yeah.
really cool.
I love that. I love that. I think that's great.
Yeah, give it a shot and let me know how it goes.
Definitely. I would
I'm like,
definitely.
I can't necessarily experiment with that because I'm not playing, but you
Mhm.
can, and everyone listening can experiment with it. So, well, life's just a big experiment. So go try it. If it works, do it. If it doesn't, try something else. But
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
love it. So I want to talk about injury next. And injury
Yeah.
is huge for me because I tore my ACL. But have
Yeah.
you ever had an injury? I'm assuming you have, but I don't know for sure.
I haven't had like an ACL tear, but
Good.
I've gone through some injuries, of course, playing soccer. But my brother, very similarly, which is the inspiration to my blog, actually had an
Okay.
ACL tear, and so that's kind of where I got this idea of doing that blog on it. So
Yeah. So that blog was how injury impacts like your mental wellness, right? Like
hmm
that kind of thing. So I remember reading that article and I sent you kind of a voice note like saying, oh, I love some of this stuff. So what were some of like the key points? And we'll make sure we share your website so people can actually go read it. So don't feel like you have to
yeah,
go into every single detail. But what were some of the kind of the key points of how you can work on your mindset while you're injured? Because I think that's really important.
yeah, it's difficult. Like just to give like an overview, like I know how difficult it is. I mean, I watched my brother do it. My
Yes.
brother, like he tore his ACL in junior year and he like loves soccer. And so
Yeah.
for colleges and for, kind of getting there, it was super difficult for him. I can sort of see his mentality, his mindset going down every single day, fearing that he won't get back on the field. And I think the most important thing that I think I talked about in my blog was that you need to take time. Everything takes time. Don't rush things. Like that's your health is like far beyond anything. And I think a lot of athletes want to push themselves, go back on the field and kind of because they're scared that they're not going to get scholarships or they're not going to be able to play again.
Yep.
But you're not, you need to take time for yourself. And it may be difficult, but I mean, I know a lot of coaches say this. Personally, my coaches say this too, but it's so important. And so another thing that you can do besides, like having your health regenerate is that while you're doing that, of course you can, do daily exercises, daily workouts. And the reason why these are so important and why they connect to your mentality is because it makes you feel like you're getting back out there. And I think kind of doing that is like productive. It's
Yeah.
productive work. So when you get back on the field, you're not missing a thing. And
Yep.
it's super hard. I know it's like incredibly hard. I mean, you've gone through it too. It's incredibly
Yeah.
hard to have an ACL tear, like one of the worst ones, and kind of try and come back out of it. But it takes time, and I think I mentioned in my blog that time is like one of the most important aspects, like to really talk about. And so that's sort of like the main things that I think I want to tell like people here that like
Yeah.
don't rush it. It's not worth it at the end of the day, and, you got this because I know it's hard, and I know it's extremely difficult, but, like, you got this. Like, that's
Yes. It's
yeah.
like it may be one of the hardest things that someone goes through in their career, right? And the
Exactly.
thing is like that going through that is only going to make you stronger. Whether it's, physically, mentally, all those things. But I do want to kind of, echo you and saying, taking the time and being patient, right? And also with that is a lot of the times we compare our recovery journey to other people. It's like, oh,
Exactly.
well, you know what, she did the same thing and she got back in 3 months. Like, why am I taking 4 months? Like, I need to get back out there.
Mhm.
So, but it's so crazy because like our bodies are all so crazy different.
Yeah.
So you can't compare your recovery to somebody else's. Like, don't put
Mhm.
your timeline. You just have to trust your process, trust your body, and trust
Exactly.
that when the time is right, like it's going to be right. Because,
Exactly.
like you said, especially when you get old like me, you realize that your health is by far the most important thing. Without your health, you have absolutely nothing.
Mhm.
So remember that when you're, a 15-year-old kid, like
Mhm.
saying, oh, I'm fine. Like, it doesn't matter if I hurt myself again, because it does.
It does, it does, it definitely does.
I
Yeah.
love that. And then also something important, you said like, doing your daily exercises and stuff. One, obviously that's going to help you to get back physically faster. But
Yeah.
the other thing is
Yeah.
it also gives you like a sense of purpose, right? Because
Exactly.
when you're injured,
Yeah.
you're like, oh, I'm just sitting here, I'm not doing anything. Like, purpose is kind of gone.
Yeah.
And so just doing your exercises, it's like giving you something to work towards, which is really going to help like your
Mhm.
mental health and your mental wellness. So
Yeah.
we'll definitely, because there's some really awesome things for girls that are going through injury. We'll link that blog in the show notes, because I was honestly blown away by it.
Thank you so much.
And if I would have had even just reading that when I was injured, like it would have really helped my process. So that's
Thank
awesome.
you so much.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
So awesome. So I want to kind of ask you more about Inside Athlete. So Inside
Mhm.
Athlete is your platform. You have a website, you have a blog. So first tell us what is Inside Athlete and why did you create it?
So, like I said before, of course, I went through confidence issues, mentality issues, but I recognized, like, sort of when I got older, that I wasn't the only one going through it. Even though
Yeah.
I was like didn't know how to do it, like how to overcome it, I wasn't the only one struggling with this, and I honestly, for the longest of time, thought that I was the only kid, kind of like going through these confidence issues, and all my teammates were fine, but they honestly were also going through it, and
Yeah.
so I started talking to a lot of my teammates and kind of asking them, like, "When you go on the field, what do you think of? Like, are you afraid, or, like, are you afraid of, like, taking risks, making mistakes?" And one teammate, I won't say a name because,
Yeah. Yeah. You're
but,
good.
like, one teammate of mine, she, like, really struck out to me, and, we've been teammates for, like, 10 years ever since I was, like, 6 years old, and she told me that every time she goes on the field, she doesn't want to get the ball because she's so scared that when she receives the ball, she's gonna make a mistake and she's gonna ruin it for the team. And it was
Mhm.
shocking to me because I've known this girl, my friend, for so long, and I've never seen her like struggle so much. And I know she loves the game. And so I was like, you know what? I'm using a couple of things that are helping me, and I think I wanna kinda share that to other people because I know that it's such a hard thing to go through. I mean, sometimes I'd actually cry, like, sometimes I'd cry after games saying, "I'm not good enough. Why am I not getting playing time? Why am I not performing well?" And it could really bring, like, not just your play of game, but your happiness down because you're always
Yeah.
sad that you're not doing, like, that well at a game, and so I thought that I don't want, like, other girls to or girls, boys, anybody to go through this ever, and so I created Inside Athletes in, 8th grade. It was sort of an idea I had in 7th grade, but I created
Wow.
it in 8th grade, and I fully developed my, uh, blog and website in 9th grade, and then, like, during coronavirus, I kind of wanted to expand it because I had more time. And just seeing that a lot of my teammates and a lot of girls in my school, a lot of boys in my school, a lot of student athletes and people like that really enjoy that they have someone to connect with and that they have someone who's also going through it. It just made my heart like so happy. It made me like extremely happy. And yeah, that's kind of like the inspiration for Inside Athletes.
Oh, that like gets my heartstrings, girl. Like that's so cool because if I was the same. I thought I was the only one struggling with it, but I
Mhm,
never would have been like thought that other people were struggling with it. I never would have thought to ask like my teammates, and I know they probably struggle with it too, right? And so I think
mhm.
that's so cool that you have the courage and the bravery to, because
Thank you.
it's you are bringing your vulnerabilities out by asking other people, right? Like that's not
Mhm,
easy to be like, hey, I'm struggling, are you also struggling? So that's the first
mhm,
thing. The other thing too, and this is so big, is that instead of keeping all of it to yourself and just thinking, hey, I'm learning this stuff, it's helping me. No, you thought like, hey, I want to help other people, I want to lift other people up, I want to help make other people better. And I love that because especially as girls, we're taught in society that we have to compete against each other, that we have to like be
mhm,
better than each other, that if she's
mhm.
great, I'm not as good. And so
Yeah,
I think what you're doing, at your age, man, you started in 8th grade, that's crazy. But I think that what you're doing and just lifting other people up and sharing your story and by helping other people is literally going to change, like, not only like youth sports, but it's going to change so many people's lives.
thank you so much.
And I mean,
That really means a lot.
yeah, and I'm so glad that you found me. Like that's so awesome. So what's your goal? Like, I mean, you don't have to have like a goal, but do you have kind of a goal of what you want Inside Athlete to look like in a couple years or 5 years or whatever?
Yeah, I've sort of thought of this a lot because, I know blogs are great, but I want to kind of reach more than just like my website and my blogs. And so I kind of want to do workshops because that's like kind of what I've been focusing on. I mean, I'm in junior year, so it's a bit difficult to
Yeah.
get the time to do it. But if I were to really expand Inside Athletes, which I'm so passionate about doing, I would definitely do workshops in sort of like high schools, soccer teams, anywhere, honestly, to kind of like get a one-on-one with like the person, the team, and to really tell them because I think like how we're like talking right now, I think sometimes written things can't really give an emotional response to a lot
Right.
of people, and so being able to really talk to them, communicate them, get their vulnerable side, as you said, I think that's kind of my goal in the future if I can.
I
Yeah.
love that. And you're going to do big things with it. And I was just thinking we can talk off air too, but I may want to hire you at some point or have you work with me or collaborate or whatever you want to call it. But so yeah, just keep that in the back of your mind and we will talk about it later. But yeah, I love that. And so big goals for that. And I want to support you in any way I can, but I want to ask you kind of one last question. And that is just like, I want you to leave the girls that are listening with kind of one piece of advice that are really struggling with their confidence. Like what would you tell them? How would you help them?
I said this various times, like towards the entire interview, and it's kind of like my slogan. It's kind of like one thought at a time, and it's the idea of increments and time and steps because I can't stress like that enough that it's not gonna happen in a day or so. Like you won't gain your confidence tomorrow. You won't gain it the next day. It's gonna take a bunch of time because it's been taking me about 2 years and 3 years to just
Yeah.
kind of be who I am, be the person who loved the game, be the person who enjoyed it, be the person who was so passionate about it. Like it takes time, but I think that doing these little things that help you gain back your confidence is going to be totally worth it at the end. I mean, I
Mhm.
go out there every single time playing soccer, like today, tomorrow, yesterday. I go out there so excited. Like I've never been more excited to kind of play the sport in my life. Like even when I was younger, I'm like so confident in who I am
Yeah.
and in the game that I think that your life is going to change, your ability to play is going to change, and your overall happiness is going to change. So yeah, that's what
That's the ultimate goal, right? Is the
exactly,
happiness. And you just said like I'm confident in who I am. It's not just about being confident in your abilities, but you're
exactly,
confident in who you are as a person, which will carry you far, far, far beyond your sport,
exactly,
which is the most important thing, right?
exactly.
I love it, girl. I love it so much. I feel like I had one more thing to add to the amazingness that you already shared, but I think it must have left my brain probably because you already hit all the amazing stuff. But share with us where can girls find you on social media and your blog and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so for my blog social media, you can find me at inside.athletes. That's my Instagram handle. If you want to connect personally, like my personal Instagram too, because you don't want to kind of you don't feel comfortable that way. My personal Instagram is Ruhi Maletira.
Cool.
Um, I could spell it RuhiMaletira.
Awesome.
And then I also have a Facebook for my blog for
Cool.
any of the people who don't like Instagram. That's the same thing, inside.athletes. And for my blog, you could find me at insideathletes.com, just simple insideathletes.com. So yeah.
Beautiful. Well, thank you again so much for coming on. This is really, really awesome too for girls to hear from a high level ECNL player who, is doing all the things, but is also, continuing to work on your confidence. And I did remember the thing I was going to say. The thing I was going to say is that like how you said that it's not an overnight process, right? Like I can't stress that enough that guess what? It never ends. I work on my confidence every single day. You always will grow. You'll always get better. It's not like, oh, I'm good. I'm not going to work on it anymore. So yeah, just thank you for hitting that home again. And we'll leave with that. But thank you so much for joining us, and make sure, guys, that you follow her. If you enjoyed this episode, take a screenshot of it, tag Inside Athlete on Instagram. We'll make sure we post all your stuff, Ruhi. But thanks again for coming on. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me.